Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Wright. Thank you for joining me as we spend this next hour together. I do sincerely hope that you're safe and well. I always do. And may you please take care of yourself and your family because you matter. Having stated that, you do matter. And my opening observations tonight go to the core of why you matter. You see, as Black Americans, we must understand that we have a role in this society. We have a role from the inception when we first came here in 1619, and we are finding ourselves in a dire place right now where America, the land of the free, home of the brave, is on the precipice of falling into an American nightmare instead of fulfilling an American dream. And that American dream, as echoed and eloquently stated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was a dream of seeing everybody have a seat at the table of brotherhood in order to do some good for the common ground and the common good of this nation. Yet our domestic tranquility, the state of our union, is at stake because of the forces of evil. They wouldn't call themselves that, but the forces of evil that are trying to ramrod their way, roughshod their way into breaking down the very fabric of America, which is liberty, justice for all, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, these people call themselves patriots, and they state that they are trying to derail the process of democracy in the name of their liberty. Yet they say America first. But let's really ask the question, is it America first from them, or is it me first, my goals first, my white supremacy first, my nationalism, my populism first, when it should be, to really break it down, God first? Because emblazoned on all of our coinage and our monetary values, known as the dollar, is a quotation that we should adhere to today, and that is, "In God we trust." And those are my opening observations. So as we continue to focus on what's going on, the impeachment process taking place on Capitol Hill, and we're hearing from both sides of the aisle and the concerns they have, and all of this coming because of what the President of the United States did last week, and the fact that people stormed the Capitol with the intention of hurting people, hurting legislators, and anyone who got in their way, because they felt that this election was stolen. So joining me now, I have Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, political commentator and consultant and strategist, successful author, as well as the West Coast Connection attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. And they're talking about what's happening, just as many of you are talking about what's happening. So Dr. Avis, here we are. We find ourselves looking at the President of the United States basically going on to fill an unprecedented role, and that's being impeached for a second time. What does this mean to the nation?
It means that we are moving towards accountability. This is something, like I said before, if there was 24 hours left, if there was 12 hours left, you cannot move forward without accountability for the crime that was perpetrated on the American people. We still know that there were 5 people who died as a result of that melee, one of those being a Capitol police officer. And to think that there are some who just want to sort of skip over this and say, well, let's just be bygones and bygones, quote unquote, in the name of unity, when all these past 4 years, these were the most divisive people that you will find on the planet, it's poppycock. It is absolutely ridiculous. And so this is that first step in the process. And the fact that Mitch McConnell has now signaled that he too is on board with impeachment, I think that we might see a sea change, and that this just might not only be an impeachment, we might actually see a removal prior to the inauguration.
Let me bring in the attorneys. On a constitutional matter, where do things stand, Mark Harris?
Well, first, I want to say that everything Dr. Avis just said, I agree with. I believe that there should be a second impeachment of Donald Trump. I think that the Congress is moving in that direction. But as we know, impeachment is just part of the process. It's the formal bringing of charges by the House of Representatives. They take those formal charges to the United States Senate, and that's where the impeachment process is going to break down here. With literally 1 day to go until this president is no longer president of the United States, a number of legal scholars have written opinions that it's unconstitutional to serve the articles of impeachment to the United States Senate after the president leaves office. They may do it, and the president, the former president at that time, would challenge it, and I think he would win. So the question is, the symbolism is important, but I don't want a Pyrrhic victory. I want a substantive victory, and that'll be a two-step process. The first step is the impeachment. The second step is for him to leave on January 20th.
Timothy, the question is to do it peacefully.
Well, and I think that's going to be a challenge. Yes, the removal of the president, either by way of his term officially ending or by way of impeachment, is going to happen. But then we have also the charges of sedition, the incitement, and the state charges that are going to be weighed against him, along with what potentially could be federal charges regarding tax evasion. So our president, commander-in-chief, has a litany of challenges to face. Going back to our analogy of addiction and hitting bottom, we haven't hit it yet. Only 4 Republicans in the House, and I haven't checked in the last 30 minutes, have joined Liz Cheney and saying that they will actually vote for the impeachment. It could be more, I wouldn't be shocked, but the fact remains that you still have a large swath of this society that will continue to find some reason to defend the president and also blame this on us. Many Republicans are already saying that both sides need to lower the vitriol in the dialogue that possibly incited this. Now think about it. Vice President Mike Pence, former Indiana governor, former member of the House of Representatives, refuses to exercise the 25th Amendment towards a man who incited a riot, or what I really view as a terrorist attack, that included gallows that were built on the Capitol to hang the vice president. Whether this was symbolic or actually was going to be carried out, we'll see. It wasn't carried out, but in terms of the intent is a big part of the law. But yet he still will not execute the 25th Amendment with the remaining cabinet members. I think we have a long way to go. I do.
We'll take a break and come right back. And welcome back to the program. Very serious dialogue right now with my good friends, Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver and the West Coast Connection attorneys, Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon. And this is a conversation that none of us would have ever expected. And yet it's upon us, where we're talking about the second impeachment of the President of the United States. But Dr. Avis, the other thing that surprises so many people, and maybe it doesn't come as a surprise, is the fact that the president, when talking about these tragic events that took place last night in which 5 people had died, he said that his language was appropriate and that people signed on with it, basically listening to his speech, and that it was appropriate. So we find that the president is not really taking any responsibility at all for what happened. How do we move forward in such a way that we bring healing to America, which is what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wants to do? But this president threatens America yet again and saying, if you go with the impeachment, that could be dangerous.
You know, I'm so tired of the continual incitement of violence by this president. He did a number of things during that speech that were not dog whistles. They were foghorns to his followers. First, they were at Alamo. Just the location of it sends all sorts of violent racial overtones. It's in Texas. This is the state that tried to sue other states for actually having a lawful election, right? And then he uses the language that he used to not only shirk his responsibility, but forecast that it was dangerous. You know, to me, that doesn't sound too far from him telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. He is projecting to his people that he wants them to continue to engage in violence. And I think this is one of the reasons why you had a Mitch McConnell. Once again, we have to be very clear about the importance of this. Now, it's at the 11th hour. Mitch McConnell at this point has gotten everything out of Donald Trump that he wants. He has all of his appointments. He's used them. Now he's ready to discard him. But I have to tell you, that when Mitch McConnell publicly says that this is appropriate, the actions that happen are appropriate for an actual impeachment, he knows that all we need is Mitch McConnell and Schumer to come together to agree to call the Senate back. They can call the Senate back this week. We don't have to wait until the 19th. They can call the Senate back immediately and actually have an expedited trial and remove this man before the inauguration. And they can further push forth actions that would bar him from running for office at any time for any office in the future. Mitch McConnell specifically said that this is our opportunity to, basically eject him from the party. He understands the dynamics of power. I don't agree with Mitch McConnell. I have all sorts of issues with Mitch McConnell, but he understands power. If he does not cut this cancer off of the Republican Party now, it's going to be that much more difficult for him to do it once he's out of office.
Mark, has this cancer metastasized, and can it be cut out? Is it inoperable?
I tell you this, I give a damn about the president's effect on the GOP. I'm just going to state it straight up, Kelly. What I do care about is the Constitution of the United States and the sanctity of the Constitution. I've said that on your show many, many times. I'm a person who still embraces what the Constitution is aspirationally set up to do, if not literally set up to do. And one thing it's set up to do is not to have a kangaroo court and a rush to judgment. I wouldn't want to see an expedited trial. As a trial lawyer, the last thing I'd want to see as a result of Donald Trump is a ramrod rush to judgment in terms of impeachment. I think a deliberative process of impeachment is what it is. We may not like it, we may not feel comfortable with it in this instance, but I ask your viewers this. If it were Barack Obama rather than Donald Trump, would we want him to have a full day in court? Heck yeah.
He would already be
focus,
impeached.
Let's not focus on the person. Let's focus on the Constitution and what the Constitution provides. And as a lawyer, no, I can't embrace an expedited process relative to impeachment. Impeachment is far too serious relative to the United States Constitution, even with Donald Trump as the potential defendant, to go through an expedited kangaroo set of justice.
Timothy, Dr. Avis was jumping in there saying that if it had been Barack Obama, he would already be impeached and kicked out. What say you?
He'd probably be handcuffed and incarcerated. I'm differ with my esteemed colleague in that, and I was edited out when I said this in a previous show. With that Constitution allowed our enslavement. It wasn't until a 13th Amendment that it was abolished. So while I have sworn to the Constitution as an attorney and a former public official, I recognize that it does not hold sanctity. My Lord holds sanctity, not that document we call the United States Constitution. It is subject to amendment, and it is subject to the interpretation of what is now a conservative court as its final arbiter. So I just do not hold that same belief. I do believe that if they could do a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court under a lame duck presidency, then I do believe that we can impeach a sitting president within the span of time, whether it be accelerated or deferred. I support it.
I'm not an attorney, but my PhD is in political science. So I am very familiar with the Constitution, with the Federalist Papers that led up to it, and with the arguments that were around the construction and framing of the Constitution. And the elements within the Constitution, which are leading to our power to have an impeachment, were put there for just such a moment as this. The framers understood that there might be a situation where you could have a leader, a president, who was so dangerous to the American people that he would have to be removed. And so there was a bit of an argument back and forth during that period about whether or not you should have that sort of power put into the actual Constitution. Some people said, just let the people decide. But that side ultimately lost, right? That's why it's in here. And the reason why that power was placed within the Constitution because people understood that sometimes you can have someone so dangerous that they might even impact what's going on with the elections, with their presidential power. In such an instance, you would have someone that was more akin to a king rather than a president. And the entire purpose of having this country and that constitution was specifically to flee a monarchy. And so what I'm suggesting is this president represents a clear and present danger to this nation. What he said in that Alamo speech was foghorn talk to his most violent followers to continue the fight, to continue engaging in violence. We know that there are all sorts of chatter on social media right now about things that are being planned for not only the actual inauguration day, but in all 50 state capitals across the nation. This man is a clear and present danger. He needs to be removed, not for the Republican Party, but for the American people.
When we come back, we'll talk about what's at stake in terms of the racial divide that already exists in this country that has only grown more, has widened even more. That's next. But there's something else that comes to mind right now that is very, very dire, and that is the fact that the FBI has stated that there is a threat against all state capitals throughout the entire United States. That's 50 states. There is a problem here. And while they are trying to do their best to investigate and actually get out and capture and arrest the people who were part of storming the United States Capitol, just the mere fact that the FBI knows that there is an element, a fringe element in this country that would like to put on flak jackets and arm themselves as in a military style and march into state capitals, as we witnessed in Michigan this past year, as we witnessed in the plot to not only overthrow the state capital of Michigan, but kidnap the governor of Michigan. And we just saw it happen on our own United States Capitol last Wednesday. So my concern or my question to you is, what are your concerns about the FBI putting out this threat and the fact that the FBI warned the Capitol Police that there was something that was amiss and warned them of an impending danger, and yet we saw that danger being carried out?
You know, this is just such a huge mess. I'm glad that we got that additional information with regards to what the FBI is sort of alerting us all to, this danger that has proliferated our entire nation and is not just focused on the nation's capital. But the reality is that there is a big problem here that needs to be further vetted out. Parts of the Capitol Police Department have been complicit, it seems as if, are complicit with these violent activities. It seems as if, and there are reports that even a Secret Service member is someone that they have cast aside because that person has shown in some ways that she might, in fact, be someone who is complicit with these activities. I am concerned, to tell you the truth, that there are people within the FBI that are complicit with these activities. This cult has infiltrated every single institution in society, in addition to police forces. I mean, there were off-duty policemen who it's been found out were part of that mob. And so this is a very, very dangerous situation in that in addition to all of these people, there are actually legislators who are in Congress right now who are complicit with these activities. This is going to be extremely difficult to parse through and make this situation more safe for anyone, given the breadth of it, but also given the insidious nature of the degree to which so many of these co-conspirators are infused within these institutions that are supposed to be charged with protecting us all.
Mark.
You know that I'm a civil rights lawyer, and I've dealt with police shooting cases and inappropriate police conduct for a very large portion of my career. Unfortunately, none of this surprises me. I live in Sacramento, California, the state capital of the largest state in the country. I'm worried. I'm worried that there will be an insurrection, that there will be further violence, that there'll be not only mass protests, but as Timothy called it, domestic terrorism that will befall our fair city of Sacramento and the other 49 state capitals of the United States. But it doesn't surprise me. When we look at all the different police shooting cases that we dealt with, we've seen gangs, tattooed gangs with the LA County Sheriff's Department. We've seen the sheriff of Sacramento County go on Facebook and say very derisive things about Black people and Black Lives Matter. This isn't anything new. What I would say is this. I like how you started this discussion, Kelly, with "In God We Trust." That's where I put my faith. But I'm here to tell you, I'm also here to protect what I hold dear. And it's not only my home and my family, but my community. And I hope that the rest of us who are potentially affected by this will also hold dear to protecting that which is most important to us, which is the sanctity of our democracy and our republic.
Timothy?
Kelly, if I could correct myself, Amy Coney Barrett was not a lame duck appointment. But with that being said, what you're addressing and what Mark and Avis has addressed, I want to continue this path of correction. It's not a fringe. It's not a fringe. This element is so interwoven into our society. And the United States government was warned that one of their target areas has been the military and public safety, law enforcement. And it's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. It is a very interwoven part of our society. Some can say it gained steam under the eugenics movement, which declared the white race as the supreme race on earth. And many people embrace this, if not expressly, clearly, if we look at our society by its actions. I think the FBI and the Justice Department have a very difficult task ahead of them in how to isolate and weave out those that attacked the Capitol physically and those that were part of the conspiracy, in my view, in my humble view, the conspiracy that led to the attack. Because they will find that, again, it is not as fringe as we may be calling it, as I have called it fringe, but even I'm being awoken again that it's all around us.